How you doing, fan bam? This is Chris Muso here with another video about DualSense and Xbox Series X controller. Which controller will reign supreme on PC? Make sure you watch this whole video and find out this comparison. Which controller will be right for you? Maybe right now you have a PC that you just built, or you have a PC that needs a new controller. Maybe you have an old legacy controller that you want to get rid of, and now you want an actual good controller. You need something new. And now these two beautiful new controllers came out and you don't know exactly what to get. And I will help you select the decision that you want for your PC, because this is a very innovative controller here, and this is a very perfect controller. I'm going to break down each controller and you can decide exactly which controller that you want to buy, because they're both really awesome. Also, I got to tell you guys, if you find this content very useful, make sure you don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to join the big wonderful fan band, make sure you go down and hit that subscribe button for more tech information. And let me get straight to it, because I know you're dying. You're trying to figure out what to purchase now, and I'm going to tell you. Let's go over the design of the DualSense controller. You have your typical L1, L2, R2. You got your D-pad. You got that touchpad, as you've seen previously from the DualSense 4 controller. This is the share button. You also have the options button. You got triangle, square, X, circle. You got all the typical controllers, the dual joysticks here. You got a PS button. And of course, you got the mic, you got a mute button, you got the PS button. And that's practically the design of the DualSense controller. Of course, I'll go deeper later in this video about it. Now, I'm going to get to the Xbox Series X controller. Going over it real quick, guys. Make sure you keep up. You got the joysticks, dual joysticks here. Of course, you got A, B, X, and Y. You got the start, you got the share, you got the options button here, or you got the window stack button here. You also got a D-pad, more circular D-pad. You got the left button, right button, and you also got left trigger and right trigger as well. And of course, you got a sync button up on the top here. Now let's get into ease of installation. In order for this to sync to your PC, it's really all not too hard. If you're not familiar on how to sync this with your PC, make sure you click the card above my head, because I show you exactly how you can install it and also get haptic feedback on it as well. Now, once you sync this controller, you do have to take a few steps. It's a little tedious, but you can do these few steps in order to get this controller completely working with your PC. And yes, you can play games outside of Steam with a DualSense controller. You can play any game outside of Steam. This will actually play very well. The only issue, of course, is if you do play outside of Steam, you'll run into an issue to where it will show you Xbox Series X buttons instead of DualSense buttons. At first, you're going to sync it with Bluetooth, and then all you have to do is install additional software for it to work 100%. So it's really all not that bad. Now, let's get to Xbox Series X controller and how easy is this to install. Now, this Xbox Series X controller is not all too bad as well. When you install it, you're going to typically install it through Bluetooth. Of course, Microsoft does feature a adapter for Xbox Series X if you rather use that instead of a Bluetooth adapter. Now, if you don't know exactly how to sync this, I also have that card above my head if you're interested, and if you already have this controller. Now, with this controller, it's not really all too hard to install, but there is many steps to it. There's actually more steps to it than the DualSense controller, believe it or not. The reasoning for that is because this controller, you can actually update it right through your PC on Xbox's accessory app. And of course, you have to update the controller, and also you got to update your Windows, and you have to make sure your PC is way up to date in order to keep up with this. Of course, one of the only things that I do have beef with both of them, not just Xbox Series X, is that the battery level is not 100% accurate. The only way you'll get a true battery level reading for Xbox Series X controller is if you go into the Bluetooth settings. You will get the actual battery reading instead of going to the Windows game bar. When you go to the Windows game bar, it does not give you a true accurate reading of it. Now let's get to the controls. Now the controls, of course, you have the left joystick here. The play on it is not all too crazy. It's not too bad. It feels just right. Same thing with the right analog stick on the DualSense controller. I do like the fact that it does have separate D-pads on this, because if you're in the middle of a fighting game, or you are in a game where you need the D-pad very distinctively, at least you will be able to know for a fact that the button that you are pressing on the D-pad will work. Now, it does offer the share button and the option button. Of course, on PC, it's useless unless you use a control layout program to where you can set those to anything that you would like. Of course, you got X, you got square, and the buttons on these feel very nice, and it's very responsive. It kind of clicks when you press into these buttons. L1 and R1 will feel very familiar to you, so you can feel a little more resistance. It's not as soft as prior controllers. One of the biggest changes is the adaptive triggers. The adaptive triggers is one of the things that is really amazing about Sony's brand new controller. Hopefully soon Steam will add support with adaptive triggers, because that would be a really nice feature to have on Steam, but I'll get more into that later. But the controls on this does work very nice, and the trackpad also works very nice as a mouse pad. The really nice thing about this DualSense controller, I do have larger hands, so when I am pushing down on these buttons, it's way more comfortable. Now let's get to the controls of the Xbox Series X controller. Now, of course, you got the left and you got the right analog stick, and you feel a little resistance. It feels a little bit smaller than the DualSense controller, the analog sticks, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not really too much of a takeaway. It does have like a concave feel to the analog sticks when you do use them or press on them, which is really nice. And the really nice thing about this Xbox Series X controller, it makes a click sound when you push down on a lot of these buttons. It's music to your ears when you press on it, because you know it's working. And of course, it has the D-pad. I do not really prefer Xbox's D-pads, but I do like the new design of Xbox Series X's D-pad, because it actually clicks when you push on the D-pad, and that's a big improvement, I gotta say, and I do like that. Another thing is that they do have the Xbox button. Of course, they have the options button. They also have a share button and a Windows stack button. Of course, you can program all of these buttons through the Xbox Accessories app. If you use the Xbox Accessories app, you can customize it to exactly how you want them for your needs. Also, another thing which is really nice is the triggers. It is a big improvement design. I do like the triggers on the Xbox Series X controller, grooved just right to where it feels comfortable on your fingers. Left button and right button are kind of typical, though they're a little bit softer. Can't really feel any kind of resistance in them. They just kind of click. Now let's get to the battery life. I want to talk about DualSense's battery life. It usually lasts about 15 to 20 hours on PC, and I really haven't had any serious issues with that, because after every gameplay, I will charge up this controller. And so to me personally, in my opinion, I don't see a problem with it. And of course, with your opinion, you could take 15 to 20 hours, and that's up to you. The only bad thing is with the battery level on this, I haven't really seen a very accurate description of the battery on PC integrated into any kind of software yet, because on the Bluetooth settings, it will not show the battery levels. Now on DS4 Windows, this battery life is not really 100% accurate on this, but it will become less responsive if you do know that the battery is low on this. But other than that, it does come with the battery built into this, which is a really nice feature. So of course you cannot replace these batteries unless you have some sort of serious battery problem with this DualSense controller. And if you do, you're gonna have to end up sending in your whole controller in for the battery replacement, or replace the battery yourself by taking it apart, and that would be up to you, of course. Now let's get to the Xbox Series X controller. Now with the Xbox Series X controller, it does last me about 25 to 30 hours of gameplay. So it does last 5 to 10 hours longer than the DualSense controller. But of course, the only negative thing about this controller's battery life is that it does not come with rechargeable batteries. You do have to purchase a plug and play kit. Now, because it does not come with rechargeable batteries, they do come with 2 AA Duracell batteries, and they are replaceable. Simply just as like that, you can take it out, and as you can see, as a rechargeable battery in there. And all you have to do in order to put those AA batteries in there, and it will function just like the controller should. It does not come with USB-C as well. So if you do want this controller to work in the Xbox accessory app, and you do have to have a USB-C wire just like this. Either if you have AA batteries, AA rechargeables, or if you have a rechargeable battery pack in the back of this, it will not read the battery levels correctly on Microsoft Windows, and it's something that they really have to update. The only way you can read the rechargeable batteries pack is through the Bluetooth devices, which is better than nothing. At least you'll know what kind of battery life you do have left of your Xbox Series X controller. Now, of course, if you're like me, you won't really run into these problems anyway, especially if you constantly charge controllers after every gameplay, which is good for rechargeable batteries, and I would recommend you guys to do that too, of course. Now let's get to the feel of it. With DualSense, it has kind of like a plastic feel, but it's a very thick, heavy feel kind of plastic. It feels like a quality plastic actually. Most of the buttons feel plastic. But the adaptive triggers are very noticeably, feels almost mechanical. Same thing with the L1 and R1. They feel kind of more mechanical. The analog sticks have a very, very grippish texture on it, and the joysticks are set at a very perfect height for your thumbs to sit on. And this controller is so comfortable that when you hold it, you'll just tend to lapse your hands just like this. When you're in the middle of gameplay, it just feels so comfortable. It's like sitting in a luxury seat when you're using this controller. It's way more comfortable than DualShock 4, DualShock 3. It is definitely one of Sony's best controllers. I was very, very surprised, especially of the feel of this controller. I am very happy about that. For the Xbox Series X controller, it does have a very grippish back texture. So when you grip it, your hands kind of just sit right onto the left and the right. Same thing with the DualSense controller. It's the same way. It just sits naturally there. And this is also super comfortable. When you're holding it, you kind of lapse your hands just because how comfy it is. And the nice thing is it has a very grippish texture, and it works its way all the way to the left trigger and the right trigger of Microsoft Xbox's Series X controller. And it does have a nice rubberish feel. The rubberish feel of the joysticks, they're not as thick as the DualSense, but it's just enough for you to feel comfortable on it. It does have a very nice feel on left button and right button, and left trigger and right trigger. And of course, these do not have adaptive triggering on them. On the Xbox Series X controller, it does feel nice. It does feel comfortable, and I'm pretty sure because of how it feels even better than the Xbox 360 controller, and I'm sure it's way better than the Xbox One controller, especially with the improved left trigger and right trigger design on this Xbox Series X controller. Now let's go for the weight, guys. For the DualSense controller, you have 9.95 ounces. Now for the Xbox Series X controller, you got 9.5 ounces. Now I gotta tell you guys, you can notice the difference between the weight between the Xbox Series X controller, and you can also feel the difference of weight on the DualSense controller as well. You can feel the difference on the DualSense controller, but it is very comfortable to hold. Same thing with the Xbox Series X. If you prefer something a little bit more lightweight, that might be something you're looking for. Now to get to the pricing. The pricing of the DualSense controller is at a stunning $69.99. And it does come with the rechargeable battery in there. It does come with the USB-C cable required for you to charge up this controller as well. It is a very heavy-duty USB-C wire for this controller, especially when it comes to innovation, when it comes with adaptive triggering. And I probably haven't stopped rambling on about that, but it is a really nice price for such a amazing controller. And also, if you do not have a Bluetooth dongle or you don't have a Bluetooth adapter for your PC, you will also have to purchase it on top of that in order for it to work on your PC, because this only works by Bluetooth. Now, of course, you got the Xbox Series X controller. Of course, it's $5 cheaper than the DualSense controller, but get this, the rechargeable battery and the USB-C wire that it does not come with. It does not come with the USB-C wire. Unbelievable, right? It does not come with the rechargeable battery. It does not come with a USB-C wire with your Microsoft Xbox Series X controller, which is another $24.99 on top of $64.99, which brings up the value to $89.99. And then plus, if you want to use the Microsoft adapter to connect to your PC, which is not necessary. The Microsoft adapter is not necessary as long as if you have Bluetooth. If you have Bluetooth, it will connect on Bluetooth as well. But if you do decide on the cost, I don't know what they were thinking about it, but sometimes you can really catch this controller on sale. You can catch it for $44.99, and the last time I saw for that pricing, it was on Black Friday. And hopefully they will have some sort of upcoming sale if you do decide on getting an Xbox Series X controller instead. Now, in overall opinion, which controller do I really think is best? I'm going to have these side by side. The DualSense controller, Xbox Series X controller. Which one is really king? Which one is really the best PC controller that you can get for your hands? I want to tell you what I really think. The DualSense controller has adaptive triggers. It does have haptic feedback. It does have a very nice feel to it. It does come with a rechargeable battery. Of course, the DualSense controller does require some work for it to work on every game on PC. And the only other draw of this is that it doesn't have a grippish texture to it. And on top of that, it is not 100% compatible on every game on game layouts. It does play in every game, but the layout is going to be different. It's going to be telling you Microsoft Xbox's buttons instead of your DualSense buttons if it's outside of Steam. And hopefully over time, there's a way for that to change. But anyway, the Xbox Series X controller, it is a very nice feel to it. It has that nice grippish texture all the way, working its way all the way to the triggers. The joysticks feel super nice on it, and it's super reliable because my Xbox 360 controller lasted me for 8 years and it's still ongoing. The only draw for these, from what I really see, is that it does not come with rechargeable batteries. It only comes with AA batteries, and it doesn't come with the USB-C wire. I don't know what Microsoft was thinking when it came to that. They should have really thought about adding a wire. I know it's not expensive for them to throw one in there. It will be compatible throughout any game, 100% on any game on PC, and the layout will be accurate. It will be on point. Now, personally, if I had to choose, I would go DualSense. And you're probably thinking, why would you pick DualSense? I mean, it is more of a revolutionary controller over the Xbox's perfect design. This has adaptive triggering. This trigger will fight you back. You will feel the difference on different cars. For example, you'll be driving a Lambo where the accelerator is a lot more sensitive compared to a Ferrari, and you will feel the difference in adaptive triggering. You will feel the difference if you're sprinting and you get tired and the left and right trigger get harder to press. Also, the haptic feedback is also really amazing on this. And Steam has that already built in. Not the adaptive triggering, but the haptic feedback. In my opinion, DualSense is a much more fair priced controller, and it's also a really excellent design I really love the DualSense controller. And also, I got to tell you guys that if you found this content very useful, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy content just like this and you want to join the big wonderful fan band, make sure you go down and hit that subscribe button for more. And don't forget to hit the notification bell. And for all the newest updates, make sure you go down and hit that Twitter handle down below, or follow that Twitter handle. Guys, fan band, what do you think? Which controller do you like best? Which one do you want for your PC? I love hearing from you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Chris Mpow signing out.